This podcast is brought to you by Podcast Nation.
Holiday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Holiday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Holiday. Holiday, bring it on.
Welcome to Nirvana Sisters podcast, where we take the intimidation out of well-being and beauty to help you achieve your highest state, your nirvana. We are sisters-in-law and your hosts. I'm Amy Sherman.
And I'm Katie Chandler. So let's get into some real conversation.
Hi, Nirvana Sisters family. Hope you enjoyed part 1 last week with Natasha Coughlin. And if you missed it, feel free to check it out. Great episode, lots of good information shared. And in this short part 2 continuation of the episode, we finished our conversation on eating for mental health. We talk about top tips for improving gut health and digestion, how to know how much protein and fat you need, and Natasha's thoughts on organic food and more. Enjoy this part 2 episode.
I'm curious what your top tips are for improving gut health, because that's obviously the number one thing for you. It's when you start. Do you feel like you start there with your clients, is making sure that their gut health is in place? What do you do to get there?
Well, we test. I usually do a stool test. It's not the most popular option with adults, but people kind of tend to do it. They say, if I trust you, if you think it will be helpful, I'll do it. So we look to see kind of what their, if they have enough digestive enzymes, enough stomach acid, what their, the big thing now is the microbiome, right? Kind of what the microbiome are doing, what kind of bacterial composition is there. So we'll look at all of those things. But, ultimately, gut health is depending on whether you're kind of where you're starting. If there's actually, repair that needs to happen, then we do certain supplements, some, herbs and some vitamins, and nutrients that kind of feed that lining to make sure it becomes nice and impermeable again, right? Nice and tight. And, again, foods like bone broth are really good. Anything with probiotics, right? Fermented, like the live, pickles, sauerkraut, those kind of, yogurt. I'm not a fan of dairy. So some kind of, usually I recommend some kind of non-dairy yogurt. But, really gut health is so individual. Like I do kind of approach it with, based on test results and really, talking to a person. So those are, some of the foods, like bone broth is very healing. Anything, again, the general formula is kind of your plant heavy whole foods, try to avoid pesticides. So organic food as much as possible, because I think there's not a lot of understanding about, what pesticides are. And they're really, they're kind of meant to affect they almost kind of like combust the digestive system of pests. So, glyphosate, right, in the pesticides. So basically that's kind of what it does to us as well, if we eat foods that are conventional, and it sounds a little too dramatic perhaps, but yeah, it does, eating conventional foods can contribute to that hyperpermeability. So, organic food as much as possible, and just, real whole foods. And then, of course, chewing your food really well and making sure we're eating in a mindful manner and we're sitting down and actually, looking at the food and smelling the food and, taking a few deep breaths to put the nervous system in that rest and digest state, because usually we are in the fight or flight, right? We're going, and then, then we sit down and we grab something while doing something else. So the brain actually has to catch up. The brain has to ultimately send the signals to the digestive tract. The food is coming in, and, the enzymes have to be produced. The stomach acid has to be produced. So if we are not even looking at the food, we're just kind of grabbing and eating, we are already, a couple of steps behind. So digestion is going to start after you've already started eating. And that's kind of too late.
It's so true. And it's also like, it's too late for your brain to tell you that you're not hungry anymore. Like I know when I'm on the go, I feel like I'm constantly hungry. It's because I didn't slow down and take the time for my brain to catch up with the fact that I've eaten and I enjoyed my meal. And
right.
So yeah, that's interesting. But just really quickly, how do you feel about collagen supplements? I have been taking one recently and I believe it's good for gut health as well.
Yeah. Collagen. I mean, that's what's in, bone broth. Of course, bone broth has all the, vitamins and minerals as well. But I think collagen is good. I mean, I like to use collagen in kind of alternating it with just a whole, protein powder, not just the collagen, because collagen is, missing one amino acid. So it's not a complete protein. But, generally, I like it. I mean, it's good to, add to your smoothies, mix into a yogurt. I mix it into pancake batter. It is important to get that protein in the morning. So I do like to use collagen as, as a source of protein, but also I have some kind of a whole protein powder as well, perhaps on like alternating mornings.
Nice.
Do you have any collagen or collagen protein powders that you recommend?
I use Vital Proteins.
Yeah.
Vital Proteins collagen. For the collagen powder, I like the Be Well by Kelly. Because it's, she says, and of course I trust what her company are saying, that it's, very, very clean, it's grass fed, produced without any chemicals. So that's the one I like. I don't like vegetarian protein powders because, brown rice, again, there's so much talk about brown rice, even organic, being contaminated with arsenic. I just kind of try, and vegetable protein is not that bioavailable. So I would rather go with something like collagen or just a whole like grass-fed beef, based protein rather than any of the like brown rice-based protein powders.
What about
unless
like
it's something
protein?
Like hemp? I mean, I can do, something like a hemp protein, with very minimal ingredients is, would be a good way to go. But otherwise, I go with, animal.
Yeah, because I keep hearing like a lot of controversy about pea protein as well, and I don't really know. I can't remember exactly what they're saying, but I just feel like I hear noise about that.
Yeah, again, it's all about how it's produced. Like a lot of times it's, heavily processed and how they sort of extract things. There's a lot of that, that it's not a very, clean process. And again, peas are kind of an issue for a lot of people. This sort of triggers a memory. I had a client who was a vegetarian and was just using pea protein-based powder every day. And when we did her food sensitivity testing, that was the first thing that came up. It was like peas was like in the red, the highest, IgG levels of, antibodies to that. And, in her case, it was, she had digestive issues, kind of weight loss resistance. And, one of the things we did was we swapped her pea. She did start eating some seafood and fish. So I kind of, she wasn't a strict vegetarian anymore. But we also replaced her protein powder with something else, and just actually some real sources of protein, not just something that comes from a bottle. And we saw some great results, like especially, weight. It was like weight loss that was kind of almost miraculous. And she kind of lost all those unwanted pounds very quickly that were just there, not budging. And
nice.
So anyway, So protein. I mean, I think protein powders are super helpful. And again, there's a variety of ways. I mean, people mix them into coffee, certainly smoothie, yogurt, pancake batter, things like that. So in chia pudding, when I make my chia pudding, even though chia seeds have the protein and good fiber too, I still put a scoop of protein powder just to beef it up a little too. And beef up on the protein.
Yeah. I always go back and forth with protein powder. I feel like I'm really into it, making shakes and doing all those things, or I'm like not at all. And I like just try to eat protein, like real protein. But it just reminds me like I should just add it to things as you're cooking. It's a really good reminder.
I think that's how it goes. I think we all go through that, right? In the smoothies. I mean, sometimes you're just absolutely sick of smoothies. And again, like we are now going into colder months. Like I know I'll be making soup, a lot more soups and a lot, fewer smoothies. So there's really no right or wrong. I mean, food is, it has to be done for enjoyment, right? Like you have to be actually enjoying what you're eating. And we get sick of things, if you make your sort of same smoothie all the time, you would definitely want something different. And as I tell my clients, there's no right or wrong. Usually breakfast foods seem to be the tough ones. And I always say, there's no right or wrong. If you want your leftover chicken with veggies from the day before, like you can have that for breakfast. Like who said you can't? So anything kind of goes as long as it's, nutritious, as long as it's, something your body is enjoying. And, again, this kind of breakfast makes me think of the whole intermittent fasting as well. And people, skipping breakfast. I'm a big proponent of eating breakfast. I think it's much better than delaying eating until later in the day. Like all the research says that finishing your eating window earlier in the day is much better than not starting until like 2:00 in the afternoon. So breakfast, maybe not the most important meal of the day, because I feel like that was the Cheerios message, but it is like, it really is important. And having enough protein with breakfast is, I would say, kind of like the, protein and fat, right? Because we always get the carbohydrates somehow, from fruits, vegetables, some way, but it's getting enough of the healthy protein and fats, and especially to start your day like that.
Do you have a recommendation? I know this is like hard to do because it's very individualized, but like how someone can determine how much protein and fat they need. Because like sometimes I will eat a healthy fat like nuts or salmon or whatever, and then I like won't have something else that's a healthy fat because I'm like, oh, maybe that's too much. But without tracking, which it's like I've done and I hate doing, is there a way to just generally kind of know like if you're having enough protein or fat?
Well, protein, protein is kind of is more straightforward. The general formula is 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. So your, you divide your pounds by 2.2, and that's your weight in kilograms. And so 1 gram of protein per kilogram. So for me, it's about, 45, 50 grams of protein. So I know it's an equivalent of like 2 chicken breasts. And I know I may not have 2 chicken breasts, but, I always start my breakfast with protein. And, no matter what I'm eating, I'm kind of like, I know that I'm getting about 10 to 15 grams of protein with my breakfast, whether it's in like a, Greek yogurt with like an added protein, or I'm having like a chia pudding, or I'm having, something with nut butter with like extra seeds on top, something like, so 10 to 15 grams with your breakfast. And then the rest would be divided between lunch and dinner. But whatever fits in, like a piece of animal protein that fits in the palm of your hand is about 20 grams. It can be 20 to 25. So, and then fats.
What about the fats?
Fats there's really no requirement for fats. We just know that they have to be healthy. So, fish, I know if I'm eating salmon, I'm getting my good omega-3s. Olive oil is a really healthy fat. So just, dressing your, I always drizzle olive oil on either salads or cooked vegetables. So that's kind of always there, and I never measure. Again, if we're dealing with, weight loss, you may kind of need to look at the total calories and see how much of that is coming from fat. But some people overdo things on the nuts. So nuts are about like 10 nuts is a serving. Like that's kind of what you want to have per day. So not just like keep grabbing from a bag, and then at the end of the day, you realize the bag is empty and you eat, 12 ounces or something. So, but otherwise, if fat is healthy, whether it's, half of an avocado, a tablespoon of olive oil, a piece of salmon, even something like coconut oil. I know there's some controversy because it's a, saturated fat, but I think coconut oil is healthy and like tastes delicious on, certain foods. So yeah.
No, a lot of people put that in their coffee in the morning too. Coconut oil.
Yeah. I like MCT. So MCT oil is derived from coconut oil, but it doesn't have that flavor, and it's much, it's digested. Like it doesn't go through digestion the same way as other fats.
Yeah.
So I actually do, I like MCT like powder in my coffee, or I use it as a liquid just to like put on a toast or pancakes or in a smoothie. Actually, it makes a smoothie just like tastes. It gives smoothies this sort of round flavor if you put a little bit of MCT oil. And it's a good, speaking of mental health, it's a good brain fuel.
Yeah, I love my MCT oil. I use it every morning.
Yeah, you got me into that.
Just really quickly before we move on to our wrap session, so I love that you have mentioned organic, because I actually had someone tell me the other day that it is like complete nonsense and that it's just the organic farmers, they're all paid off. It was like this total like ridiculous, the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. I want to hear from a nutritionist mouth. Organic's the way to go. Yes, if you can do that.
Yes. I mean, I don't think it's like some big hoax. I mean, there's certainly, we can't control how 100% exclusively, organic food is, because again, there's a water supply, right? There's air. We can't, nothing is grown in a silo, right? You can't really protect your fields from anything that's possibly coming in. But if food is not sprayed with glyphosate, that's pretty much as we can control. And I think that's what, that's what's better for us. So, because again, that, glyphosate is it's actually meant to disrupt the digestive tract of the pests. So therefore it kind of does it to us as well. So I would say organic. I do follow the Dirty Dozen Clean 15, every year when they put out their list, because there's some things that are just too expensive organic or not available, or I know if something has a thick skin and it's on the Clean 15, I just peel it and I know that I'm not getting the pesticides from that. So that's, I would say, at least do the Dirty Dozen Clean 15 and kind of buy those foods organic, because I honestly hate to see people who are like juicing their spinach or celery in their conventional, when I see people buying big bunches of conventional celery or conventional, bags of spinach, because they're clearly for some kind of mass, either juicing or smoothies or something like that. Yes, you're getting, you're getting the good, but you're getting the bad.
A lot of bad with it.
With the good. So, so I do like organic, of course, if it's available, if it's not cost prohibitive, the way to go.
Nice. Thank you. Okay. I'm glad to clear that up. All right. Well, really quickly, where can our listeners find you, Natasha?
Integrative Health RD, as in registered dietitian, integrativehealthrd.com. That's my website. And then I'm on Instagram at Natasha Coughlin.
Fantastic.
So
and do you do virtual appointments as well if people are out of
I do.
state?
Most of my appointments now are Zoom. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay,
That's
great.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, we're going to get into our signature wrap session. We just have a couple questions for you. We want to know, the first one, what is your favorite wellness or beauty hack?
I would say my favorite wellness hack is going outside in the morning. I mean, that is my hands down. That's what I preach. That's what I practice. Like, we have to go outside and get that first morning light just to turn off the melatonin, get the other things started. So really so much research on that we need that first morning light. And if it's combined with movements, even better. So like a 20, 30 minute morning walk. Of course, if you can't do 30 minutes, just do something like around your yard or something that just exposes the eyes to the natural light. And, as far as beauty, definitely, non-toxic, clean beauty. I use Tata Harper quite a bit because she's a friend, and, I've kind of got to try a lot of her products. But anything that's from the non-toxic brands, I would, definitely, I've been doing that for the last 15 or 20 years. So really not exposing yourself to chemicals through beauty, because that's, again, it's not just for skin health. We expose ourselves to chemicals that are disruptive to the immune system, to their hormones. So really watching that and, kind of going minimal, I would say, with beauty, it's, you want clean beauty and fewer products if possible. And, my big pet peeve is perfume, definitely like fragrances, like the chemical perfume. I just cannot do because I read somewhere there's 500 to 700 different chemicals mixed.
Wow.
So I was like, I don't want that. I'd much rather do some kind of, essential oil blend or, something like that.
It's weird. I just like the last couple of years have had a complete aversion to perfume, and I used to wear it every single day.
Me too.
One day I just like, I couldn't, It was always like so offensive to me for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wear anything. I used to wear stuff too. It gives me a headache.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? Again, I think we're so overloaded, right? Our bodies are so overloaded with toxins that we have this, threshold of detox where we're just dealing with so much that adding this another kind of layer of a toxicant that's just, offensive, offensive to the body, and the liver has to, metabolize it and you go through it and get rid of it. That I think that's just kind of like the straw that, breaks the camel's back.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
I agree with that. Okay. All right. This next one we call your 5-minute flow. You just got out of the shower and dried off and Uber pinged you. They're 5 minutes away. What are you going to do to quickly get yourself together and ready and out the door into that Uber on time?
Okay. So shower, I guess I've taken a shower, cold shower at the end. Just, 30 seconds of like a super cold shower at the end. I guess I would say that's my other, wellness hack is the cold shower. Minimal skincare, some kind of a, moisturizer and, either like a Tata Harper or Osha or Malibu or what else do I use? I usually have a few. So some kind of just a daytime moisturizer and mascara, usually just mascara, a little bit of blush that I use on my lips as well, like a one of those creamy blush things, some kind of a non-toxic mascara, an Ilia or Pacifica, something like that. And what else? I'm totally crazy about my Theory like jogger pants that I got a couple of pairs 2 weeks ago. And now I'm like, that's what I put on in the morning with like a white t-shirt. And they're kind of cute and, stylish, but they're still comfortable, like joggers almost. So, and I don't know how I lived without them until I bought them 2 weeks ago, but
I need
that's
those.
what I would.
Sounds amazing.
They're these high-waisted. I mean, that's what I wear. Like they're high-waisted.
Oh my God.
Jogger pants, but
Those are really cute.
So
very versatile.
Anyway, yeah. So that's what I would do. Yeah, but I think just again having it's good having the schedule, having the plan, right, and kind of like doing things consistently, like day after day. Like I know I already went outside and got my little bit of a few minutes of sun. I did my cold shower. That always wakes me up, and that's kind of what it's meant to do, right? Sort of revs up metabolism, gives you that jolt of energy, and from there it's pretty simple, really.
Nice.
So, and being prepared. I think being prepared, right?
Awesome.
I already have my outfit in mind. I have my just few, skincare things on the counter. It's all there. Glass of water, always a glass of water in the morning for mental health. Because again, like I tell my clients, we all kind of feel slightly fuzzy and foggy in the morning because brain does shrink, kind of microscopically overnight. So we do need a glass of water in the morning to kind of get things going, not just from the metabolism perspective, like it's good for metabolism and sort of general energy, but the brain needs it as well.
Get out of that morning brain fog. Nice. All right. Well, it sounds like you also gave us how you maintain your daily nirvana from the outdoors and would you say, and your showers
Sun.
And everything. Is there any other trick you do to maintain your daily nirvana?
Yeah. Oh, that's a tricky one. I don't know if I do, I mean,
I think we covered it.
It's hard, right? It's just, things happen, right? I mean, life is stressful.
So true.
Things always happen. But, well, I have to mention, and this again, going back to mental health, alcohol, like I don't drink alcohol at all. And I feel like it does, again, and there's research that, alcohol lowers our stress resilience. So I feel like that's might be one of the things that's helping me. It's like you get up in the morning and you don't have that little bit of a, hangover thing. And, you can sort of deal with whatever life throws at you that day better, because I kind of have a good start, right? And sleep, I know we didn't even touch on sleep, but obviously so huge. Sleep is like, disrupted sleep is the best way to drive someone crazy, right?
Yeah.
Physically and mentally.
So true. So, it can make
totally.
you sick and everything. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Natasha, thank you so much for your time. You gave us a lot of great information. I know our listeners are going to love it. We really appreciate your time. And before we go, we like to wrap with a mantra or an affirmation. So let's wrap with this one. I think it's appropriate. Good health is a practice, and I have patience. So just need to remember. We have to practice at it, right?
Good one.
Yeah. All right.
I like that. Yeah, nothing happens overnight. All of these practices that we've been talking about, like they only work if they're consistent. Like you can't just do it for a couple of days and say, throw in a towel, this doesn't work.
Consistency is everything.
So true.
Yeah, consistency is everything.
So true.
Yeah.
Well, so nice to meet you. We could talk to you for hours. I feel like we need to have you back because I have so many more questions in my head, but this has been so informational and helpful. And I know our listeners are going to love it. So thank you again for being on the show. We'll make sure to be.
Thank you guys. It was so fun.
Thanks for listening to Nirvana Sisters. For more information on this episode, check out the show notes, please subscribe and leave us a review. Also, find us on Instagram at Nirvana Sisters. If you loved what you just listened to or know someone that would, please share it and tag us. Tune in next week for a fresh new episode of Nirvana Sisters. We'll continue to watch out for all things wellness so you don't have to. Bye.